The film opens in darkness with T'Challa's father T'Chaka beginning the story of Wakanda's creation. As the narration unfolds, we witness the vibranium meteorite striking ancient Africa, creating the crater that will become the foundation of everything that follows. The meteorite's impact transforms the surrounding environment in unprecedented ways. From a mining tribe emerges Bashenga, a warrior shaman who approaches the panther goddess Bast, who leads him to a powerful heart-shaped herb that had grown from soil imbued with the metal's unique properties, and Bast instructed Bashenga to consume the herb. The transformation is violent. Bashenga's body convulses and he appears to die. But then he rises with eyes glowing like a panther's, moving with superhuman grace and power. He has become the first Black Panther. He demonstrates his new abilities on the battlefield, disarming warriors without killing them, moving with impossible speed, demonstrating strength beyond human limits. He speaks of unity and using the vibranium to build something unprecedented rather than destroying each other over it. For tribes accept his vision and kneel, forming the nation of Wakanda with Bashenga as first king. But the Jabari tribe refuses to submit, believing in traditional warrior ways over mystical transformation. Their leader challenges Bashenga and loses, and the Jabari retreat into the mountains to preserve their traditions in exile. The narration continues but shifts to World War II and Nazi soldiers, part of a Hydra expeditionary force, move through the African jungle searching for the hidden kingdom their intelligence suggests possesses advanced technology. They're being hunted by Azuri, who has been systematically eliminating intruders. Azuri attacks from the shadows in a sequence that plays like horror. He picks off the patrol one by one with methodical precision, using the environment as his weapon, exploiting their fear until they are scattered and helpless. Captain America encounters the aftermath of Azuri's hunt, calling out that he means no harm. Azuri attacks without warning, assuming Steve is another foreign threat. Their fight is spectacular, Captain America's shield ringing against Azuri's vibranium claws. Steve fights defensively, trying to explain himself, while Azuri fights with controlled fury to protect sacred ground. Hydra forces interrupt their battle, and Steve immediately shifts to protecting Azuri despite their confrontation. Azuri recognizes this selflessness, and they begin fighting his allies. T'Chaka's narration explains that this encounter influenced policy for decades, creating ongoing debate about whether limited engagement with carefully selected outsiders might be possible. The narration becomes intimate as T'Chaka speaks of meeting Ramonda in a rural village. He hears of a woman performing miracles with vibranium without official training. He investigates and finds Ramonda, an orphan who taught herself metallurgy and creates vibranium jewelry that heals pain. T'Chaka watches her work, captivated by her brilliance and her theories about vibranium's semi-sentient properties. When he reveals himself, they begin conversations that stretch for hours. Ramonda challenges T'Chaka intellectually, questioning Wakanda's isolationism and arguing their technology could save lives beyond their borders. T'Chaka counters with history, explaining how revelation leads to exploitation. Their romance develops slowly but deeply. They complement each other perfectly, finding perspective in the orphan scientist who understands common people. Their wedding is magnificent, blending ancient traditions with modern innovations. When T'Challa is born, T'Chaka describes holding his son, feeling the weight of legacy passing to a new generation, understanding what his own father felt. Overwhelming love mixed with terrifying responsibility. The narration reaches 1994. T'Chaka finishes his story as he and young T'Challa approach Vienna for a United Nations meeting. T'Challa asks about the world outside Wakanda, expressing fascination rather than fear. T'Chaka explains that the world contains both beauty and cruelty, often intertwined, and that powerful nations disguise conquest with promises of partnership. T'Challa gently challenges this certainty, suggesting Wakanda could help make the world better. At the UN, representatives want access to Wakanda's resources, A Western diplomat addresses T'Chaka by his first name rather than proper titles, a deliberate show of disrespect. T'Chaka responds with quiet authority, explaining that Wakanda owes the world nothing, that everything they possess was built through their own efforts. If nations wish to engage with Wakanda, they will do so as equals or not at all. Suddenly, a shot is fired. The bullet strikes the window but does not penetrate. His security detail, with characteristic Wakandan thoroughness, has embedded a micro-layer of vibranium in the glass. For a split second, there is relief. Then the floor explodes. Ulysses Klaw and his team of assassins crash up through the floorboards, bypassing the conventional security entirely. Klaw is armed with a sonic weapon of terrifying power, a device that weaponizes sound itself, turning it into concussive force that can shatter bone and rupture organs. His men fan out, firing on everything that moves. T'Chaka dons his Black Panther suit in a fluid, practiced motion. He shields his son and engages the assassins. The Dora Milaje, the elite all-female warriors who serve as the king's personal guard, fight with lethal precision. The battle in the Vienna room is close quarters, chaotic, and visceral. Furniture splinters. Walls crack. The Dora Milaje move as a coordinated unit, covering angles, protecting the royal family, cutting down assassins with spears and blades. T'Chaka fights at the center of it, the Black Panther suit absorbing punishment that would kill an ordinary man. He is powerful, experienced, and ferocious. But Klaw's sonic weapon is something T'Chaka has never faced. The blasts overwhelm even the vibranium weave of the suit, staggering the king, disrupting his equilibrium, creating openings the assassins exploit. T'Chaka is driven to his knees. Young T'Challa, watching his father falter for the first time in his life, does something that no child should have to do. He runs toward the danger. Klaw sees the boy. He recognizes the opportunity. Killing the king is the contract, but killing the heir ensures there is no one left to seek revenge. He turns the sonic weapon on T'Challa. T'Chaka sees it happening. In the last act of his life, the king throws himself between Klaw's weapon and his child, absorbing the full force of the blast. The sonic energy tears through the suit, through the man inside it. T'Chaka dies, shielding his son. What happens next is raw and animal. T'Challa, a child, grabbed Klaw's own sonic blaster, dropped or knocked loose in the chaos, and fires it. The recoil nearly throws him off his feet. The blast catches Klaw's right arm and shatters it completely, the limb destroyed from the elbow down. Klaw screams, a sound of genuine, uncontrolled agony that cuts through the chaos of the room. He retreats, dragged away by his surviving men, leaving a trail of blood. T'Challa drops the weapon. He falls to his knees beside his father's body. The battle continues around him. The Dora Milaje pursuing the retreating assassins, securing the room, calling for reinforcements, but none of it reaches the boy. He is alone with his father. He cries, not the tears of a prince or a future king, but the uncontrollable, body-shaking sobs of a child who has just watched his entire world die. Many years have passed. It is Challenge Day, the ancient ceremony at Warrior Falls where the right to the throne of Wakanda is decided by ritual combat. The energy is electric. Drums pound. Chants rise and fall. The entire nation is watching. At the edge of the arena, Shuri is trying to push her way in. She is young, brilliant, impatient, and deeply invested in what is about to happen. The Dora Milaje warriors Aneka and Ao block her path with calm, immovable authority. Shuri protests. She has every right to be there. But the arena is sacred ground during Challenge Day, and the rules do not bend for princesses. Queen Mother Ramonda arrives, and the disappointment on her face stops Shuri's protests cold. She backs down, chastened but not defeated. In the arena, T'Challa's uncle Saihin descends from a royal Talon fighter. He has been the Black Panther and ruler of Wakanda since T'Chaka's death, a steady and capable regent who held the nation together during the years of T'Challa's youth. He takes his position in the arena and waits. His challenger enters. The man wears a mask, his identity concealed, his body moving with the fluid, coiled grace of someone who has trained for this moment his entire life. The crowd does not know who he is. The fight begins. It is fierce, respectful, and definitive. Saihan fights with the experience and cunning of a veteran warrior king, but his challenger is faster, more creative, and relentless. Every strike is precise. Every counter is anticipated. Saihan is driven back, outmaneuvered, and ultimately brought down. The fight ends not with a killing blow, but with a hold, the challenger pinning Saihan in a position of submission, waiting for the yield. Saihan yields. The mask comes off. The crowd erupts. It is T'Challa. His family is on their feet. Ramonda, Shuri, his best friend Wakabi. All of them surging with pride and joy. The assembled tribes roar their approval. T'Challa stands in the midst of warrior falls, water streaming down his face, and is crowned king of Wakanda. The coronation is not complete with combat alone. T'Challa must undergo the spiritual rite that transforms a king into the Black Panther. He is led to a sacred cave, a place where generations of Black Panthers have come to receive their power. The Wakandan shaman prepares the potion. T'Challa lies down on the sand. He consumes the herb. The effect is immediate and violent. His body convulses. The sand beneath him seems to pull him downward, swallowing him. He wakes in the ancestral plane. One of the panthers descends from the tree. Its form shifts and changes. T'Chaka stands before his son. T'Challa is overwhelmed. He rushes to T'Chaka and embraces him, weeping openly, then drops to his knees and begs forgiveness. T'Chaka looks down at his kneeling son and tells him, gently, that he is a king now. T'Challa rises, but the burden does not lift. He tells his father the truth. He is not ready to be king. T'Chaka points out that T'Challa has trained and studied for this role his entire life. T'Challa shakes his head. That is not what he means. He is not ready to be king without his father. T'Chaka regards his son for a long moment. Then he tells him a truth that T'Challa will carry for the rest of his reign. You are a good man with a good heart, and it is hard for a good man to be a great king. The words are not a comfort. They are a warning. Goodness and greatness do not always align, and the throne will force T'Challa to navigate the space between them. The ancestral plane begins to dissolve around them, the purple sky fading, the grassland retreating. T'Challa awakens from his burial, gasping, covered in sand, the power of the Black Panther now coursing through his body. He tells the Wakandan shaman that his father was in the ancestral plane. The shaman is not surprised. The ancestors are always there. It is only the living who are sometimes ready to see them. In the savannah of Kenya, far from Wakanda's hidden borders, the world's most famous hunter is at work. Sergei Kravinoff, known to the world as Kraven the Hunter, moves through the tall grass with the patience and focus of a predator who has never known the experience of being prey. His quarry is a rhinoceros, an enormous bull. Kraven circled silently, every step calculated, his breath steady. He raised his custom rifle, the one loaded with a potent tranquilizer dart rather than a killing shot. This was a test of skill, not slaughter. The rhino lifted its head, nostrils flaring, sensing danger too late. Kraven fired. The dart struck true, embedding in the thick neck. The animal bellowed, charging forward in a thunderous burst of power, but Kraven was already moving, dodging with feline grace. He closed in, leaping onto its back as the sedative coursed through its veins. Muscles straining, he wrestled the beast to the ground, pinning it with raw strength until its massive body shuddered and collapsed into the dust, alive but subdued. Panting, sweat glistening on his tattooed skin, Kraven stood victorious over the fallen giant. Calypso emerged from her vantage point. He caught her wrist gently but firmly, pulling her flush against his body. In a rough growl, he warned her that teasing him right after a hunt might mean he wouldn't be gentle, though he suspected she had no interest in gentleness anyway. Calypso's lips parted in a wicked smile. She gripped the back of his neck and leaned in close, her words brushing hotly against his ear as she confessed that gentle was for prey. She wanted the hunter, raw and hungry, the same man who had just wrestled a rhino into submission. She urged him to take her like he had taken the beast, to claim her right there in the grass. They make love in the aftermath of the hunt, the adrenaline and the heat of the savannah collapsing into intimacy. They are interrupted by the arrival of a stranger. Ulysses Klaw introduces himself to Kraven and Calypso with the ease of a man who has rehearsed this pitch. The pay is excellent, he says. Kraven wants to know what kind of job. Klaw tells them plainly. They're going to take over Wakanda and kill the Black Panther. Kraven and Calypso have no idea how to feel about it, and the idea of attacking a sovereign nation sounds insane. But Klaw is persuasive. Klaw explains that his family has a history with Wakanda that stretches back generations. His great-grandfather was one of the founders of South Africa, and a Black Panther killed him in combat, an event that the Klaw family considers an unfair fight and a personal humiliation that has echoed down the bloodline. When Klaw was hired to assassinate King T'Chaka at the Vienna hearing, it was both a professional contract and a deeply personal act of revenge. He describes the Vienna job with relish, the planning, the infiltration, the moment of the kill. He admits that he failed to eliminate the entire bloodline. The boy who shattered his arm is now the king, but his sponsors were grateful enough to shelter him. Kraven asks a pointed question. Klaw still had supporters in South Africa even after the regime change? Klaw corrects him. He did not go back to South Africa. After his great-grandfather's remains, really just a boot with his foot still in it, were returned to base camp, the family went home to Belgium. It is Belgium that sheltered him, Belgium that rebuilt him, Belgium that now needs this mission to succeed. Calypso observes that it sounds like a destiny fulfilled. Klaw agrees. He explains the strategic situation. His Belgian sponsors know that T'Challa, once securely on the throne, will eventually hunt down every person responsible for his father's death. The sponsors need a preemptive strike. Eliminate T'Challa before he comes for them. Klaw needs muscle, and Kraven is the best there is. He reveals his sonic arm cannon to the hunters, demonstrating its power. Kraven, intrigued by the promise of the ultimate hunt, a superhuman king in a technologically advanced hidden nation, agrees to join. At night, in Wakanda, a group of thieves carry sealed canisters of raw vibranium stolen from a secure extraction facility near the Great Mound. Each canister worth more than the gross domestic product of most nations. They are heading for the shore, where a transport is waiting to take the ore out of Wakanda and into the hands of whoever is buying. They do not make it. The first thief goes down without a sound. He is at the rear of the group, covering their trail, and one moment he is walking, and the next he's on the ground, unconscious, pulled into the underbrush by something that moved too fast to see. The group does not notice immediately. When the second man vanishes, snatched sideways off the path with a muffled impact, the others stop. Weapons come up. Flashlights cut through the darkness. They scan the tree line, the canopy, the spaces between the trunks. Nothing moves. T'Challa drops from above. The canister the man was carrying arcs through the air. T'Challa catches it with one hand without looking. The remaining three thieves react with the speed of men who have been trained for violence. One opens fire with a modified weapon that discharges bursts of concentrated energy. Not Wakandan technology, but not standard black market hardware either. Someone has equipped these men with weapons designed to penetrate vibranium weave. The shots hit T'Challa's suit, and the suit absorbs them. The kinetic energy rippling across the surface in pulses of purple light. T'Challa closes the distance in 2 strides and disarms the shooter with a wrist lock that snaps the weapon apart, then drives his knee into the man's solar plexus and drops him. When the thief overextends on a downward slash, T'Challa steps inside his reach, catches his arm at the elbow, and redirects his momentum into the ground. The man hits the dirt face first. The thieves are subdued, bruised, broken in places, but alive. By the time the border tribe arrives to take custody, it is already over. The next day, in the Wakandan royal palace, T'Challa and Saihin discuss the thieves, who are now imprisoned. The conversation quickly moves beyond logistics into something deeper, a philosophical clash between 2 generations of rulers. Saihin tells T'Challa how his father would have dealt with traitors. T'Chaka would have crushed the breath from their bodies, pulled their fingers from their sockets, and broadcast their judgment for all of Wakanda to see. The punishment would have been public, theatrical, and terrifying, a demonstration of royal power designed to ensure that no one ever dared steal from the throne again. Sion describes this not with horror, but with reverence. It was effective. It kept the peace. T'Challa responds quietly. He never saw such behavior from his father. Sion tells him the truth. He was steered away from it. As a child, T'Challa was guided through the palace's winding passages, kept at a distance from the brutal realities of his father's rule. It is not for the Kimoyo, the sacred bond between parent and child, to shatter a child's image of their father. T'Challa absorbs this revelation. The father he worshipped, the king he is trying to live up to, was capable of a cruelty he was shielded from. It does not diminish T'Chaka in his son's eyes, but complicates the picture. T'Challa tells Sion that he cannot be his father. He does not say this with resentment or rebellion. He says it with the clear-eyed understanding of a man who has assessed both his father's strengths and the world's changing landscape, and concluded that the old methods, however effective, are no longer sufficient. In the background of their conversation, screens display footage from the wider world. Magneto battling the X-Men at Cape Citadel, the Avengers fighting the Chitauri invasion in New York. The images are jarring in this context, a reminder that while Wakanda has been hiding, the world has changed in ways that cannot be ignored. Superhumans, mutants, alien invasions. The old order is fracturing. T'Challa presses the point with his uncle. Change is moving all around them. Forces of nature appear in the sky, and others claim to be humankind's evolutionary replacements. Wakanda can no longer choose to stay hidden from the outside. The nation's survival depends on engaging with a world that is evolving rapidly and dangerously. Sion reacts with genuine alarm. He calls it folly, not dismissively, but with the conviction of a man who has spent his life protecting a secret that he believes is essential to his people's survival. Wakanda's shrouded existence is for the good of the realm and the world, he argues. If the outside nations knew of Wakanda's superiority, its technology, its vibranium reserves, its military capabilities, they would never let it stand. Wakanda is not a nation of conquerors. The history of the African continent proves beyond doubt that outsiders cannot be trusted. And with the way T'Chaka died, T'Challa of all people should know better. T'Challa counters with the lesson that his father's death burned into him. You cannot prepare for the threats you do not know about. Wakanda has let the world come to it with ill intent for too long, reacting to dangers only after they've breached the borders. The argument escalates. Sion, the usually measured statesman, slams his fist on the table. He warns T'Challa that revealing Wakanda to the world risks turning the Black Panther into an impotent symbol, a figurehead stripped of mystique and power, reduced to just another head of state in a world of heads of state. T'Challa walks away. Over his shoulder, he replies that it might instead make the symbol more powerful. T'Challa walks the upper corridors of the royal palace alone. He is still carrying the heat of the disagreement. He turns a corner and finds Lynne, a CIA field agent who just arrived in Wakanda. Monica asks him how the conversation with Sion went. She already knows the answer. She can read him better than almost anyone in the palace. He tells her, Sion thinks revealing Wakanda to the world is folly, that the history of the continent proves outsiders cannot be trusted, that T'Challa is risking everything his ancestors built. Monica listens without interrupting, then asks a simple question. Does he think Sion is wrong? T'Challa is quiet for a moment. He tells her that Sion is not wrong about the history. Everything his uncle said about what happens when African nations open their doors to the West is true. Colonization, exploitation, extraction dressed up as partnership. The CIA itself, he says, and he looks at her directly when he says it, has a documented history of destabilizing African governments, arming dictators, overthrowing leaders who refuse to cooperate. Monica does not flinch. She has heard this before, from him and from her own conscience. T'Challa continues, but his father's death taught him that hiding does not protect you from the threats you cannot see. Isolation is not safe. It is a different kind of vulnerability. Monica tells him she understands the fear. She tells him something she has not told him before, that when she was first assigned to Wakanda, her briefing from Langley included a contingency assessment for the destabilization of the Wakandan government in the event that the intelligence sharing arrangement broke down. It was a standard document, the kind the agency produces for every foreign partner, clinical and impersonal. But she read it, and it described a nation she had come to respect, a people she had come to care about, as a strategic asset to be managed and, if necessary, dismantled. She tells T'Challa that she destroyed her copy of the assessment, that she never reported it, that it was the first time in her career she chose a loyalty that was not on the organizational chart. T'Challa absorbs this. He asks her why she's telling him now. Monica says it is because he needs to hear from someone who has been inside the machine that his caution about the West is not paranoia. It is pattern recognition. But she also tells him that caution and paralysis are not the same thing, and that the world outside Wakanda's dome is not only the ugly history that Sion describes. There are people out there who would be allies, not exploiters. The challenge is telling the difference. Monica turns to face him. She tells him when she first met T'Challa, he was a prince, brilliant, intense, carrying the grief of his father's murder with a discipline that she admired and a loneliness that she recognized. During his time in the United States, away from the palace, away from the protocols, they became something more than agents and assets. The late conversations that started as intelligence briefings and ended with something more honest. The arguments about policy that revealed how similarly they thought about the world despite coming from opposite sides of it. The night in Washington when they walked for hours along the mall, talking about their fathers. T'Challa about a king who died protecting him. Monica about a civil rights activist who taught her that service to your country and obedience to your government are not always the same thing. She tells him that by the time he left for Wakanda, she knew she was in trouble. T'Challa tells her that the night in Washington is one of the few memories from that period of his life that is not weighted with grief or obligation. He tells her that when he returned to Wakanda to challenge Sion for the throne, one of the first decisions he made as the incoming king was to invite her back. Officially, it was to continue the intelligence arrangement. He did not fool anyone. Ramonda saw through it immediately. W'Kabi said nothing, but his silence was eloquent. Monica laughs, a real laugh, unguarded, the kind that slips out before composure can catch it. She asks how Ramonda took it. T'Challa says his mother told him that his father once made a similarly transparent political excuse to spend time with a woman, and it resulted in the most beautiful wedding the world would ever see. Meanwhile, Klaw travels alone into the frozen mountains of the Jabari lands. Klaw is captured almost immediately, dragged through the snow by warriors twice his size, and brought before M'Barku, the Man-Ape. The white gorilla cult was outlawed, not because it was wrong, but because it was inconvenient, because its warriors challenged the authority of kings who preferred laboratories to battlefields. M'Barku's hunger for revenge is inseparable from his hunger for restoration. He does not merely want to overthrow T'Challa. He wants to return Wakanda to what it was before the Panther cult remade it in its own image. There is something almost horrific about M'Barku's eagerness, a zealot's gleam in his eyes when he speaks of the old rituals, the old powers, the acquisition of strength through the white gorilla ceremony. He adds a horror element to the story, a reminder that Wakanda's past is not all noble. Some of the old ways are savage, and the people who practice them are frightening precisely because their conviction is genuine. Klaw and M'Barku size each other up. Their motives could not be more different. M'Barku wants to restore his people and destroy everything modern Wakanda has become. Klaw wants vibranium and the satisfaction of killing the son of the man he murdered. But their goals align where it matters. Both want T'Challa removed from the throne. They form an uneasy alliance, each planning to betray the other once the common enemy is dealt with, each aware that the other is planning the same. T'Challa convenes his inner circle in the throne room. The subject is Ulysses Klaw. Despite the full might of Wakanda's intelligence apparatus, resources that W'Kabi boasts rival the Mossad, and certainly surpass the CIA, a claim that draws a sharp look from Monica. They cannot find the man. Every lead has been pursued. Every contact from Langley, Virginia to Johannesburg, South Africa, has been exhausted. Klaw did not simply disappear after the Vienna assassination. His entire past was scrubbed. His records, his history, his identity, all of it has been erased, as if the man never existed. Someone with enormous resources and institutional power made Ulysses Klaw vanish. Saihin suggests that the council must consider the logical conclusion that those responsible for the assassination killed Klaw afterward and scattered his remains. Dead men leave no trails. T'Challa refuses to accept it. He demands DNA evidence. He wants ashes, bones, something, anything that proves the man who murdered his father is no longer breathing. Until he has that proof, the hunt continues. The River Tribe elder proposes a diplomatic approach. They will not find Klaw without cooperation from the West. Perhaps Wakanda could make this a condition of limited trade. Offer the outside world something of value. The cure for cancer perhaps, in exchange for intelligence on Klaw's whereabouts. W'Kabi dismisses the idea immediately. The Western powers would never admit their own complicity in the assassination. If they cared about their people's health, he observes acidly, they would not sell cigarettes. The merchant tribe elder is even more forceful. How could anyone consider giving those barbarians a scrap from Wakanda's table? Even for something as important as revenge? They will take the gift and turn it into a weapon, as they do with everything else. Shuri interjects. She points out that they are arguing about whether to engage with the outside world, as if the decision has not already been made for them. The vibranium thieves T'Challa stopped were operating on a plan that required outside contacts and outside buyers. The resonance anomalies she has detected in the Great Mound suggest external interference. Wakanda is not choosing between isolation and engagement. The isolation has already failed. The only question is whether they engage on their own terms or wait until someone else forces the terms on them. Monica backs her up. She tells the council that from an intelligence perspective, Shuri is right. Wakanda's invisibility has been its greatest strategic asset, but that asset is depreciating. The world's surveillance capabilities are advancing. Satellite technology, signals intelligence, even the proliferation of superhumans with sensory abilities beyond normal parameters. All of it is closing the window during which a hidden nation can remain hidden. The question is not if Wakanda will be discovered, but when, and whether that discovery happens on Wakanda's terms or someone else's. The River Tribe elder, sensing the impasse, gently asks if they might switch to more mundane matters of governance. There is a new sewage treatment plant that needs the king's approval, a facility that will convert algae into enough electrical power to light up the outer districts. The merchant tribe elder cuts him off, insisting that the king will decide when a topic is done and should not be rushed. In the next scene, we see Calypso standing outside the Catholic Church in Vatican City, talking to Ulysses Klaw on the phone. She is skeptical, bordering on amused. The man she is supposed to seduce is here, in a church. Klaw tells her this particular mark is old-fashioned. Calypso does not bother hiding her disbelief. She does not understand how religion fits into a scheme built on money, governments, power, and for Klaw, personal revenge. Klaw's response is dry and immediate. Money, power. What does she think organized religion is about? The line is a joke, but like all of Klaw's jokes, it carries something colder underneath. The entire Vatican operation is a demonstration of how Klaw thinks, how he sees institutions, traditions, and belief systems not as things with inherent meaning, but as tools to be leveraged. The church is a resource. Faith is a weapon. People who believe in things are people who can be aimed. A priest meets Calypso at a side entrance of the church, letting her in quickly and discreetly. They walk through the hallways of a Vatican that tourists never see. Calypso asks about the side door. She thought they were sanctioned by the Pope. The priest explains the situation with the practiced calm of a man who has navigated institutional hypocrisy for decades. Officially, the church has not been involved in military operations in several centuries. However, certain branches of the bureaucracy are not afraid to conduct what they consider a holy war. The pontiff is in declining health. There's no need to bother him with details or even the knowledge that certain missions are occurring at all. The plausible deniability is structural and deliberate. The Pope does not know because no one tells the Pope, and no one tells the Pope because knowing would require him to act. And acting would require the institution to confront what it has been doing in the shadows for a very long time. Calypso asks, half joking, whether they at least get a blessing from His Holiness before heading to Africa. It cannot hurt. The priest does not laugh. They enter the vault. At its center, displayed on a stand of dark iron, is the ebony blade. It has been wielded by the Knights Templar for over 600 years. It fell out of the church's control briefly. The priest explains, but it is back now. Its edge can cut through anything. The priest frames the mission with the fervor of a man who has convinced himself that violence in service of faith is not violence at all. Africa, he explains, is the front line of religious warfare in the 21st century. Christianity is the fastest growing religion on the continent, but Islam also has a significant presence, and the competition for souls is fierce and sometimes bloody. He notes with bitter irony the contradiction of the Sudan slave trade conducted by adherents of a faith that claims compassion. Why cannot people practice what they preach? But the Wakandans, the priest continues, his voice hardening, are worse than any rival religion. They are animal-worshipping pagans, a civilization with technology that dwarfs the Western world, and they still pray to the Panther god. They still commit human sacrifice. The priest speaks of the Wakandans with a revulsion that goes beyond theological disagreement into something more personal, more threatening. Wakanda represents a civilization that achieved greatness without Christianity, that built a society of breathtaking sophistication on a spiritual foundation that the church considers heresy. The very existence of Wakanda is an insult to the narrative that Western religion and Western civilization are synonymous with progress. That is why Wakanda must be converted, no matter the cost. The priest leads Calypso to a training arena hidden within the Vatican compound. Other knights are present, sparring in pairs, but one figure dominates the space entirely. Nathan Garrett, the Black Knight, is mounted on Aragorn, his winged horse. Nathan is in full armor, and even with wooden practice swords, he is demolishing his sparring partners. The other knights are skilled, but Nathan operates on a different level. The priest explains Nathan's lineage. He is a British man, a direct descendant of Sir Percy of Scandia, the original Black Knight. His bloodline stretches back to the Crusades. He is pure of mind and spirit, a genuine warrior of faith in an era that has largely forgotten what that means. The priest introduces him with a reverence reserved for holy relics, a man who believes in the mission with every cell in his body. Then Aragorn sweeps low over Calypso and the priest, the winged horse's passage close enough to stir their hair and send small pieces of rubble raining down on Calypso's head. It is clear that Nathan did not see them. His focus during training is absolute, his awareness narrowed to the combat space. He pulls Aragorn around, registers the presence of the visitors, and his entire demeanor shifts. The warrior vanishes and the gentleman emerges. Nathan dismounts, drops to one knee before Calypso, and apologizes with a sincerity that is almost startling in its earnestness. He calls her Fair Maiden. He asks what he can do to make up for such a horrible affront. He takes her hand and kisses it. The priest had worried aloud that the sight of a lovely young lady might weaken the knight's resolve to stay pure. Calypso assures them that her modesty and his virtue are a perfect match. She asks how soon the Black Knight can leave for Africa. The priest says immediately. The final piece of Klaw's invasion force is now in place. Back in Wakanda, a teacher leads her class on a field trip to the vibranium extraction site at the Great Mound. The children are young and buzzing with excitement. The teacher is in the middle of explaining the geological history of the site when the ground shakes. It begins as a tremor, subtle enough that the children look at each other with confusion rather than fear. Panic sets in. The children scatter. The teacher tries to gather them, but the ground is splitting, rifts opening in the earth, sections of the mine floor collapsing into deeper caverns below. One boy, Kayshawn, loses his footing at the edge of a widening crack and begins to fall. The Black Panther catches him. T'Challa is there, moving through the chaos with the speed and precision that the heart-shaped herb grants him, pulling children to safety, bracing collapsing structures, shielding bodies with his own. He grabs Kayshawn by the arm and hauls him back from the edge moments before the rift swallows the ground where the boy had been standing. The earthquake subsides. Cyan reports the damage. No one died. The children are shaken and scraped but unharmed. The miners escaped with only minor injuries. It is a miracle, Cyan says, and he means it. The structural integrity of the mine should not have held as well as it did, and the fact that everyone survived suggests that something about the vibranium itself absorbed enough of the shock to prevent a total collapse. But T'Challa is not thinking about miracles. He is thinking about impossibilities. How does a mound made of vibration-absorbing mineral shake? The question is not rhetorical. It is diagnostic. Something caused this, and whatever it was had to be powerful enough to overwhelm the dampening properties of the largest vibranium deposit on Earth. Shuri steps forward. She has been studying nuclear physics for 2 years, and while she is the first to acknowledge that she is not yet an expert, she has a theory. She believes there is something wrong with the vibranium itself, not a structural failure of the mine, but a change in the ore's properties, something at the atomic level that could explain why a vibration-absorbing mineral suddenly transmitted seismic energy instead of absorbing it. She asks for permission to investigate, requesting a small team of experts to accompany her into the mine shaft. T'Challa shuts her down. He points out that her 2 years of study in nuclear physics hardly make her qualified to contradict the science officer. Shuri pushes back, asking him a part of her lack of tact, but asserting that yes, she would like to investigate another possibility. Cyan reinforces T'Challa's refusal. Out of the question. Besides being dirty and dangerous for a princess, T'Challa will not risk the lives of other men in the event of a second cave-in. Case closed. T'Challa pushes past Shuri's protests and sees Kayshawn on the ground. The boy is sitting in the dust, scraped and wide-eyed, staring up at the Black Panther with an expression of absolute reverence. To Kayshawn, this is not a man in a suit. This is the Panther God made flesh. He tells the Black Panther that his family moved to the city from the countryside, and that he never dreamed he would be blessed with the sacred presence of the Panther God himself. T'Challa removes his mask. It is a deliberate act, a choice to show Kayshawn the human face behind the sacred symbol. He tells the boy his name and speaks to him with a directness that carries no condescension. He tells Kayshawn that God works through him, the same as through Kayshawn. There is no feat the Black Panther achieves that Kayshawn is not capable of. T'Challa puts his mask back on and walks away. Cyan watches him go and begins to say something about why T'Challa is the Black Panther, why he is special, why the nation is right to follow him. Shuri finishes the sentence before her uncle can. She knows. He has been her brother her whole life. The admiration in her voice is layered with exasperation. She loves T'Challa deeply and is endlessly frustrated by the ways in which his instinct to protect prevents him from seeing her clearly. She just wants to do her part. Somewhere in Africa, far from Wakanda's borders but close enough to strike, Klaw's invasion force has assembled. At the edge of the camp, Nathan Garrett kneels alone with the ebony blade thrust into the earth before him, his head bowed in prayer. He prays the way a man prays when he believes, with absolute sincerity, that what he is about to do has been sanctioned by a power greater than himself. Ulysses Klaw approaches. He asks Nathan if he would say a few words to the troops before the assault begins. Nathan is reluctant. This is Klaw's army, not his. Klaw presses, flattering him with the observation that as a man of the cloth, Nathan will find the most inspirational words to put the mission in context. Nathan asks Klaw a question that cuts through the flattery. Is he a man of faith? It is not a challenge. It is a genuine inquiry from a man who needs to believe that the people he fights beside share some connection to the same higher purpose. Klaw's response is carefully calibrated. He says his mother took him to Sunday Mass without fail, and that he believes this mission will save both lives and souls. Nathan accepts it. He wants to believe, and wanting to believe is, for a man like Nathan, the same as believing. Nathan rides to the front of the assembled force. They are a motley and frightening army. Klaw's mercenaries, hardened professionals from France, Belgium, America, and Great Britain. Men whose loyalty is measured in wire transfers and whose morality is negotiable. Barku's white guerrilla warriors, tribal soldiers from the Jabari lands. Kraven, standing apart with Calypso at his side, his body language that of a predator assessing the hunting ground. The Black Knight begins his speech. He speaks of God working in mysterious ways. He invokes history. Centuries ago, Europeans brought civilization, commerce, and God to Africa. They dragged the continent into the 20th century. Now, at the dawn of a new century, Africa needs their help more than ever. Here, Nathan says, stand representatives of 4 great nations committed to doing just that. He acknowledges that force is regrettable but necessary. The people of Africa want God in their lives, and the ebony blade will grant them their wish. Nathan believes every word. He has internalized a narrative of European benevolence and divine mandate that allows him to frame the invasion of a sovereign African nation as a charitable act. The language of the Crusades lives in his mouth as naturally as breathing. The infidels need saving, the heathens need converting, and the sword of the righteous will deliver them into the light whether they want it or not. He does not see the irony. He does not see the mercenaries smirking at his sincerity or Mbarku's warriors staring at him with the blank incomprehension of men who worship a different god entirely. He sees a holy mission, a pure purpose, and himself as the instrument of divine will. Nathan acknowledges to the assembled force that many of them are fighting for different reasons. Some may be here for glory, wealth, revenge, or just regular meals. But whatever their reason, the hand of God guides them all in this holy crusade. The crowd shouts its approval. The sound is ragged and discordant, the roar of an army that agrees on the destination if not the motive. But it is loud, and it is enough. The invasion of Wakanda is set in motion. In Wakanda, T'Challa does not yet know what is coming. He knows that the earthquake at the Great Mound was not natural. He knows that Klaw is still alive and still dangerous. He knows that the world is changing around him and that Wakanda cannot hide forever. But the specific shape of the threat, the unholy alliance of European mercenaries, Vatican crusaders, exiled zealots, and the world's deadliest hunter, is still beyond his sight. He works in his lab in the Great Mound, running calculations on vibranium samples that he gathered without authorization. Aneka finds T'Challa. There is an emergency at the border. She does not elaborate. She does not need to. The way she says it tells T'Challa everything about the scale of what is happening. He moves through the lab with a speed that is not quite running, but carries the same urgency. He arrives at Wakanda's Border Security Command, where Wakabi is already at the displays, his face tight with concentration. Something is coming in low, beneath the radar coverage, moving fast and maneuvering in ways that no conventional aircraft should be capable of. It takes a moment for the system to resolve the image, and when it does, the room goes quiet. It is a man on a winged horse, the Black Knight on Aragorn, flying just above the tree line, the ebony blade strapped to his side, moving toward Wakanda with the singular focus of an arrow in flight. The image is surreal, a medieval warrior on a mythical mount, picked up by the most advanced surveillance technology on Earth. And for a beat, the room does not know how to react. Then training takes over. T'Challa uses his Kimoyo beads to remotely pilot a squadron of Royal Talon fighters to intercept. They converge on the Black Knight from multiple angles, a coordinated strike designed to overwhelm a single target through sheer firepower and positioning. Nathan Garrett cuts through them like they're made of paper. The ebony blade slices through vibranium-reinforced hulls as if they offer no more resistance than air. Aragorn banks and climbs and dives with an agility that the Talon fighters, for all their sophistication, cannot match because the horse is alive, thinking, reacting with animal instincts that no autopilot can replicate. Nathan takes apart the first Talon fighter with a single sweeping cut that bisects the craft from nose to tail. The second he strikes from below, the ebony blade carving through the undercarriage and splitting the engines. The third and fourth he destroys in a spiraling maneuver that sends wreckage raining down on the Wakandan plains. The Black Knight is the vanguard, but he is not the invasion. While T'Challa's attention is fixed on the sky, M'Barku and his white guerrilla warriors pour onto the Wakandan plains from the mountain passes, and they crash into the Dora Milaje with the force of an avalanche. Aneka and Ao lead the defense. The Dora Milaje form a disciplined line, their vibranium spears and energy shields creating a wall of coordinated lethality that would stop any conventional force. But M'Barku's warriors are not conventional. They fight with a ferocity that borders on the religious, each warrior believing that death in service of the white gorilla is not death at all but ascension. They throw themselves at the Dora Milaje line with no regard for their own survival, absorbing casualties that would break a professional army, and keep coming. At the Border Command Center, W'Kabi watches both fronts deteriorating and urges T'Challa to stay, to coordinate, to command from a position where he can see the entire battlefield. Sion cuts him before T'Challa can respond. Getting emotional is what the enemy is counting on, he says. They want T'Challa to react, to rush, to make the impulsive choice. T'Challa looks at his uncle and tells him he is not emotional. He is happy. All of his enemies are in one place. The line is delivered with a calm that is more frightening than any display of rage. T'Challa races back to his lab, where Shuri and Monica are already working. Monica assists them both, her training as a CIA field agent making her useful in ways that go beyond intelligence analysis. She helps T'Challa calibrate weapons, checks equipment loadouts, moves with the competence of someone who has prepared for combat before and understands that preparation is where battles are won or lost. T'Challa turns to her and asks her to go to the royal palace and protect Ramonda. Monica holds his gaze for a moment in which everything they have not said to each other is present. And then she goes. T'Challa takes the Panther Cycle, a vehicle of sleek Wakandan engineering capable of flight, designed for speed and aerial combat. Shuri arms herself with her vibranium gauntlets. She's going to the front line to fight alongside the Dora Milaje against M'Barku's forces. T'Challa does not try to stop her. There is no time, and he has finally understood that trying to keep Shuri from the fight does not keep her safe. It only keeps Wakanda from using one of its greatest assets. High above the Wakandan plains, T'Challa on his Panther Cycle catches up to the Black Knight. The two face each other in the air, the Black Panther on a machine of vibranium and advanced engineering, the Black Knight on a living, breathing winged horse, his ancient sword already dark with the oil and debris of the Talon fighters he has destroyed. T'Challa demands surrender. Nathan's response is immediate and absolute. He refuses, calling T'Challa a varlet, an insult drawn from a vocabulary that has not been in common use for centuries. T'Challa repeats the word, bemused despite the circumstances. Varlet. He is fighting a man who speaks like a character from a medieval romance. They charge each other. The collision is spectacular, a clash of eras, of philosophies, of everything that separates these two men. Nathan fights with the ebony blade in sweeping, powerful arcs, using Aragorn's flight to generate momentum that turns every strike into a potentially lethal blow. The blade cuts through vibranium shielding with the same ease it showed against the Talon fighters, and T'Challa is forced to rely on speed and maneuverability rather than armor. He fires vibranium pulse blasts from the Panther Cycle's weapon systems, but Nathan deflects them with the flat of the ebony blade, the ancient metal absorbing the energy without apparent effect. Between the strikes, T'Challa speaks. He asks Nathan about his faith, about the conviction that brought him to Wakanda to fight a war in God's name. Nathan claimed that his success was because God was on his side. Now that he is losing, T'Challa asks, has God abandoned him? Nathan fights harder, more recklessly, The precision of his earlier attacks giving way to the desperate fury of someone who is fighting not just an enemy, but a doubt. T'Challa tells him, almost gently, that it was just a philosophical question. Then he hardens, "Drop your sword, or the Talon fighters will blow your horse out of the sky." The Black Knight does not drop his sword. He cannot. Surrender would mean accepting that the crusade was wrong, that God did not sanction this mission, that everything he has built his identity around, his lineage, his faith, his purpose, was a lie fed to him by a priest in a hidden room and a mercenary with a sonic cannon. The remaining Talon fighters converge. Their targeting systems lock onto Aragorn. Not the rider, the horse. Aragorn's wing beat falters. The second volley strikes the other wing and the horse's flank. The great animal convulses in the air, its body twisting against physics that it can no longer defy, its remaining wing beating uselessly against nothing. Nathan feels the moment Aragorn dies beneath him. The Black Knight begins to fall. He does not scream. He does not reach for Aragorn, though the horse's body tumbles beside him through the empty air. He holds the ebony blade in both hands, pointed downward, as if he intends to strike the earth itself when he meets it. In his final moments, the Black Knight is certain that God is waiting for him, that the crusade was just that he served faithfully and well. He hits the Wakandan earth with a finality that shakes the ground, and the ebony blade buries itself in the soil beside him, standing upright like a headstone. On the ground, the battle has reached a fever pitch. Shuri has arrived at the front line and is fighting alongside Aneka and Ao, and her presence changes the character of the engagement. Her vibranium gauntlets discharge focused blasts of concussive energy that send white guerrilla warriors and Klaw's mercenaries flying backward. M'Barku himself is a terrifying presence at the center of the fighting. He towers over the battlefield, swinging a war club that cracks vibranium shields and staggers even the strongest Dora Milaje. T'Challa arrives on the battlefield. He drops from the Panther cycle into the thick of the fighting, the impact of his landing sending a shockwave through the surrounding combatants. The Black Panther suit absorbs the force and redirects it outward, scattering white guerrilla warriors like debris. T'Challa does not pause. He moves directly toward the Man-Ape. M'Barku fights to destroy what Wakanda has become. Every swing of his war club is an argument against the civilization that chose the mind over the body and, in his view, lost its soul in the transaction. T'Challa fights to defend what Wakanda is becoming. He was raised to balance the warrior and the intellectual, to honor the old ways while building new ones, and his combat style reflects that balance. Ancient hand-to-hand techniques augmented by the suit's technology, tradition, and innovation working in concert. The fight is brutal. M'Barku lands blows that stagger T'Challa, the raw power behind them testing the limits of the vibranium suit's ability to absorb kinetic energy. T'Challa responds with a speed and precision that M'Barku cannot match, striking at joints and pressure points, exploiting openings that the bigger man's aggression creates. M'Barku goes down. T'Challa stands over him, breathing hard, and demands to know where Ulysses Klaw is. M'Barku has no answer. Or if he does, the answer comes too late. Meanwhile, Klaw, Kraven, and Calypso slip through the chaos and breach the royal palace. They find Ramonda in her bedroom. Monica tries to fight them, but Calypso keeps her restrained, her grip calm and professional, the practiced hold of someone who has done this before. Klaw contacts T'Challa through his Kimoyo beads. The taunt is designed to provoke, to make T'Challa react emotionally, to cloud his judgment with fear and rage. It works, but not in the way Klaw expects. T'Challa, still on the battlefield with the unconscious M'Barku at his feet, secretly contacts W'Kabi through a channel that Klaw cannot detect. W'Kabi confirms what T'Challa feared and hoped. Saiyan is already leading a team of Dora Milaje to the Queen's chambers. T'Challa's first reaction is not relief, but alarm. His uncle is too old for this. Saiyan was the Black Panther once, was the king once, but that was years ago, and the body remembers its limitations even when the spirit does not. But there is no time to argue. Saihin is already moving. Klaw, unaware of the rescue in progress, delivers his ultimatum. He declares himself the new ruler of Wakanda. He tells T'Challa that he has the power to collapse the entire country into a pothole, a claim that may or may not be an exaggeration, but coming from a man who has already demonstrated the ability to trigger earthquakes in the Great Mound, it cannot be dismissed. It makes no difference to Klaw whether he rules Wakanda or destroys it. Either outcome satisfies his need. Then the demand. Find a knife, Klaw tells T'Challa. Sharp or dull, he does not care. And kill himself. Now, the words land with the obscene simplicity of someone who has stripped away all pretense and is operating purely on power. Klaw holds all the cards, or believes he does, and his demand is designed not just to kill T'Challa, but to humiliate him, to make the king of the most powerful nation on Earth destroy himself on the order of a foreign criminal standing in his mother's bedroom. The sounds of battle still echo across the plains, but around T'Challa there is a pocket of silence, as if the world itself is holding its breath. The moment stretches. Klaw waits. Then T'Challa speaks, and what he says is not what anyone expects. He asks Klaw a simple question, or what? Klaw does not understand. T'Challa explains that Klaw would kill his mother. He will do that anyway. That he would destroy Wakanda. He will do that anyway too. Nothing T'Challa does or does not do changes Klaw's intent. The threats are real, but they are not leverage, because leverage requires the possibility of a different outcome, and Klaw has made it clear that destruction is not his fallback plan. It is his nature. T'Challa tells Klaw, with absolute calm, that regardless of what happens next, he is still going to kill him. So what exactly is Klaw's leverage? Ramonda's voice comes through the line, fierce and proud and utterly unbroken. That is her son, she says. Not the one who just sentenced her to death. The one who just sentenced Klaw to death. The wall of the Queen's chambers explodes inward, and through the smoking gap charges Saihin in a Black Panther suit. The sight of it is startling and galvanizing. Two Black Panthers, uncle and nephew, the old guard and the new. The Dora Milaje pour through the breach behind him. Saihin orders them to engage Kraven and Calypso while he takes Klaw. Kraven is outmatched, not by any single warrior, but by the system, by the collective discipline that makes the Dora Milaje more than the sum of their parts. He fights magnificently, and he loses. At the last moment, as the Dora Milaje close in for the final capture, Calypso saves him. She throws a cloud of gas, something chemical and disorienting that fills the corridor with an opaque haze. When it clears, Kraven and Calypso are gone. Saihin engages Klaw directly. He presses Klaw backward, exploiting the tight quarters of the palace corridors where Klaw's sonic cannon is difficult to aim, closing the distance so that the fight becomes physical, fists and claws against a man with a weapon grafted to his arm. He unleashes the cannon at full power. The blast is not a focused beam, but a wall of sound, a concussive wave that fills the corridor and catches Saihin with the force of a physical detonation. The older man is thrown backward, the Black Panther suit absorbing as much of the energy as it can, but unable to prevent the damage entirely. Saihin hits the far wall and does not get up immediately. He is grievously injured, alive but broken. Aneka and Ao are there in seconds. They carry Saihin out of the corridor with the practiced urgency of soldiers evacuating a fallen commander. Ramonda moves with them, her composure intact even as she sees Saihin's condition. Monica, freed in the chaos of Kraven's fight with the Dora Milaje, provides cover as they retreat. The group moves towards safety, Saihin's weight distributed between Aneka and Ao, but Klaw is not done. He moves to the palace window and raises his sonic cannon, targeting the fleeing group. They're in the open, moving across the palace courtyard, exposed and vulnerable. Klaw takes aim. T'Challa hits Klaw before the shot can fire. He comes through the palace window, like a projectile, the Black Panther suit absorbing the impact of his entry, his body slamming into Klaw with enough force to drive the man across the room and into the far wall. The sonic cannon discharges harmlessly into the ceiling, bringing down a shower of stone and plaster. The final battle between the Black Panther and Ulysses Klaw begins. Klaw grows stronger as the fight progresses, channeling every ounce of his sonic power through the cannon and through his enhanced body. The technology grafted to him by Belgian scientists responding to his adrenaline and rage. But as T'Challa presses his advantage, something unexpected happens. Klaw begins to talk, not to taunt, not to threaten, to confess. As Klaw speaks, the film fractures. The present, the battle, the palace, T'Challa's fists connecting with Klaw's body, begins to intercut with the past, rendered in a different visual register. We see Klaw as a child, a boy in a Belgian house with a cruel father and a timid mother and a sister named Julia who heard voices. Julia's voices were real to her. Presences that spoke and sang and told her things about the world that no one else could hear. In another family, in another era, she might have been called gifted. In this family, in this era, she's called sick. The boy Klaw loves his sister with a desperate, total devotion of a child who has no other source of warmth. He believes in her voices the way she does. They are not symptoms to him. They are Julia. But he is small and weak, and when his father decides that the voices must be silenced, the boy can do nothing. We see doctors, a hospital. His parents speak with a physician who recommends a lobotomy. The clinical detachment of the scene, the way the adults discuss the destruction of Julia's inner world as a medical procedure, a treatment, a kindness, is more horrifying than any act of violence in the film. The boy watches. The boy cannot stop it. And then it is done, and the sister he loved is gone. Still alive, still breathing, but emptied of everything that made her who she was. The flashbacks shift. We see the nation of Azania, somewhere in Africa, a country torn by civil war, its government propped up by colonial interests, its rebel forces funded in secret by Wakanda. Klaw was there. He compares the people of Azania to Julia, soft and caring as she once was. The sequence is rendered with a strange tenderness that makes its violence more disturbing. We see two male soldiers in the rebel forces sharing a quiet, loving embrace in the chaos of a battlefield. The moment is implicit and unspoken. Two men finding gentleness in the middle of destruction, their bond visible in the way they hold each other. Then the rebels overrun a government position and kill the soldiers defending it. Klaw begins ranting. He speaks of servants murdering their masters, of the natural order being overturned. He appears on the Azanian battlefield, not as a bystander, but as an active participant, and kills one of the two lovers. The surviving soldier cradles his dead partner's body, and Klaw stands over them with his weapon raised. He declares that new gods must arise and let their voice be a great fear. Then he pauses. He looks at the surviving man, at the grief on his face, at the way his hands refuse to let go of the body. Klaw turns off his weapon and walks away. He spares the man. It is a flicker, nothing more, of the humanity that Julia once represented in him. The part of Klaw that recognizes tenderness and cannot quite bring himself to destroy it every time. In the present, Klaw rises from the debris, bleeding, his sonic cannon crackling with unstable energy, and the confession reaches its climax. Klaw tells T'Challa that he always believed in Julia and in her voices, that the day they carved the voices out of her head, they carved the god out of their own hearts. He says he searched the symphony of time and space, not for power, but for her, for the sound of Julia's voices, for the frequency at which the universe spoke to his sister, for the proof that what they destroyed was real and sacred. He declares himself the voice now. He has come to drink the blood of Wakanda, its vibranium, the most resonant substance in existence, the metal that vibrates with the fundamental frequency of the earth itself, and to ascend. The people of Wakanda, he says, will call him God. Then, in the heat of the violence, T'Challa hears his father's voice. It comes from inside him, not the ancestral plane, not a vision, but the memory of T'Chaka's words, carried in the son's blood and bone. He looks at Klaw. The man is broken. Physically, psychologically, the sonic cannons sparking and failing, his body unable to sustain the punishment it has taken. Klaw is a ruin, and in that ruin, T'Challa sees something that stops him cold. He sees himself. He sees what he will become if he follows the path that his rage is cutting for him. He sees the cycle, a boy who loved someone, who lost them, who let that loss metastasize into a hunger that consumed everything around it. Klaw started as a child who could not save his sister. He became a monster who murders in her name. The distance between those 2 points is not as far as T'Challa would like to believe. He started as a child who could not save his father. What is he becoming? T'Challa steps back. He does not kill Ulysses Klaw. The decision is not mercy. It is not a weakness. It is not because Klaw's confession moved him to pity. It is conviction, the conscious, deliberate choice to build his kingdom on something other than vengeance. Klaw must answer to the living for his crimes. Klaw is taken into custody. On the battlefield, the white guerrilla warriors, seeing their leader defeated and captured, break. Some flee back to the Jabari lands. Others surrender to the Dora Milaje. The mercenaries, the European soldiers who came for money and have no ideological stake in the outcome, lay down their weapons almost immediately once it becomes clear that the invasion has failed. Sion is alive, but badly wounded. He will recover, but slowly, and the experience has aged him in ways that medicine cannot reverse. He fought as the Black Panther one last time, and it may have been the last time. In the quiet that follows the battle, T'Challa and Monica find each other. They stand together in the streets of Wakanda. Their feelings for each other are real. Neither denies this. Monica cared for T'Challa before he was king, and her affection is not for the title, but for the man. T'Challa sees in Monica a partner who challenges him, who does not treat him as a symbol, but as a person, and who understands the weight of duty because she carries her own version of it. But their paths diverge. T'Challa has a nation to rebuild and a new vision for Wakanda to implement. The work ahead is immense. Not just repairing the physical damage of the invasion, but navigating the political and cultural upheaval of bringing Wakanda out of isolation. He will need advisors, allies, and eventually a partner. And the realities of Wakandan politics and tradition mean that his choices in that regard are constrained in ways that personal desire cannot override. Monica has loyalties of her own, to her agency, to her country, to the career she has built and the responsibilities she has accepted. She cannot stay in Wakanda, and T'Challa cannot ask her to. They part without false promises. T'Challa stands at a podium in the United Nations headquarters in New York. He is here to complete what his father started, and to take it further than T'Chaka would have imagined. He reveals the truth about Wakanda, not gradually, not diplomatically, not through the careful language of trade agreements and conditional partnerships. He tells the world, plainly and completely, what his nation is. He describes vibranium, the technology, the military capabilities, the centuries of hidden advancement. He shows them images, Wakanda, as it truly is, a civilization that makes the rest of the world look primitive by comparison. The room reacts with shock, disbelief, and the first stirrings of the fear that Sion warned about. T'Challa tells them why. Wakanda is coming out of isolation, not because it is weak, but because isolation is no longer sustainable. The world has changed. Superhumans walk among ordinary people. Alien armies have invaded from the sky. Mutants are being persecuted by governments that fear what they do not understand. The old order, the system of nation-states and power blocks and carefully maintained inequalities, is fracturing, and Wakanda can no longer afford to watch from behind its barriers while the world burns. He announces that Wakanda will lend its resources and technology to improve the lives of those in need, not as charity, not as a transaction, but as an obligation. He challenges the first world nations directly, telling them that the systemic inequalities they have maintained for centuries, the persecution of minorities, the exploitation of developing nations, the hoarding of resources and knowledge, are no longer acceptable, and that Wakanda intends to be an active force for change rather than a passive observer. He makes public Wakanda's support of mutants and other superhumans. This is not a popular position, and T'Challa knows it. But he believes that the persecution of people for the way they were born, for abilities they did not choose, is the same injustice that the world has inflicted on people of color, on women, on every marginalized group throughout history, and that Wakanda will not stand by and watch it happen again. Then T'Challa turns his gaze inward. Change is coming to Wakanda, he announces, not only in its relationship with the outside world, but internally as well. He hints at a future in which the monarchy and other older traditions will evolve. Wakanda will move toward becoming a more democratic state, with the various tribes and their people having a greater voice in governance. T'Challa sees the unchecked power of the monarchy as too easily misused or abused if placed in the wrong hands. T'Challa assures his people and his allies that the days ahead will be hard. The world will not welcome Wakanda's emergence with open arms. There will be resistance, suspicion, and attempts to exploit what Wakanda offers. Internally, there will be those who see the reforms as a betrayal of tradition, who will fight to preserve the old order. T'Challa does not minimize any of this, but he tells them that they will endure, so long as they remain true to each other and to their friends. The speech ends. The room is silent. Then, slowly, the reaction begins, a wave of noise that is part applause, part alarm, part the sound of a world realizing that everything it thought it knew was wrong. T'Challa stands at the podium and absorbs it. He is his father's son, but he is not his father. He is his own king, and the world will never be the same. A Shield Quinjet descends through the holographic barrier that hides Wakanda from the world. It lands on a platform near the royal palace. The ramp lowers. Nick Fury steps out. He stands on a landing platform and looks out at the city, and for the first time in perhaps decades, is visibly, genuinely amazed. T'Challa meets him. Fury does not open with pleasantries. He tells T'Challa that what he did at the United Nations in New York was one of the boldest and most surprising things Fury has witnessed in a career spent watching people with extraordinary power decide what to do with it. Then he shifts to business. He offers T'Challa the opportunity to help the Avengers fight threats around the world. It is not a casual offer. Fury has seen what Wakanda can do, and he understands that this nation, this king, changes everything about how global security works. A man who would reveal his country's deepest secrets to protect it is a man Fury wants on his side. T'Challa declines, not with the dismissiveness of a man who thinks the offer is beneath him, but with the measured focus of a king who understands his priorities. He has to focus on ruling Wakanda. The nation has just emerged from isolation, survived an invasion, and committed to a radical restructuring of its relationship with the rest of the world. The work is enormous, and it requires his full attention. But he tells Fury, if one day a threat arises, a real threat, the kind that endangers not just one nation, but all of them, Wakanda will answer the call. Fury can count on it. Fury understands. He has been in this business long enough to know when a promise is real.